My stepdad installed hidden cameras in my bedroom. When I told my mom, she called me a liar. Until the FBI showed up at our door, I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get it off my chest. I'm still processing everything that happened, and my therapist said writing it out might help. So here goes. I'm 19 now, but this all started when I was 17. My mom remarried when I was 15 to this guy named Derek. At first, he seemed okay. Quiet, kept to himself, worked in IT for some big company. He wasn't trying to be my dad or anything, which I appreciated. My real dad passed away when I was 10, so I wasn't looking for a replacement. The first couple years were fine. Derek and I had this unspoken agreement to just coexist. He'd nod at me in the hallway, I'd nod back. We'd eat dinner together as a family, make small talk about school or his work, then go our separate ways. Mom was happy, and that's all that mattered to me. But something changed the summer before my senior year. It started with little things. I'd come home from my part-time job at the mall and find my bedroom door slightly open when I knew I'd closed it. My laptop would be warm even though I hadn't used it all day. Things on my desk would be moved just a fraction of an inch. Not enough for most people to notice, but I've always been particular about my space. When I mentioned it to my mom, she laughed it off. Maybe you're just stressed about college applications, honey. You've been so forgetful lately. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Then came the renovations. Derek announced one day that he wanted to upgrade our home security system. Can never be too careful, he said, avoiding eye contact as usual. He spent a whole weekend installing new smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and what he called motion sensors for the alarm system. He insisted on doing my room personally. Your mom mentioned you've been worried about people coming in your room, he said with this weird half smile. This'll give you peace of mind. I stood in the doorway watching him work, this uncomfortable feeling growing in my stomach. He was too careful, too precise about where he placed everything. The smoke detector went right above my bed. The motion sensor had a perfect angle of my closet area where I changed. All done, he said, wiping his hands on his jeans. You'll sleep better now, knowing you're safe. Safe? Right. The paranoia hit me hard after that. I started changing in the bathroom. I'd throw a towel over the smoke detector when I was in my room. Mom noticed my behavior and pulled me aside one evening. Sweetie, what's going on? You've been acting so strange lately. I took a deep breath. This was my mom. She'd believe me. She had to. I think Derek put cameras in my room. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Then she laughed. Not a happy laugh. That nervous, uncomfortable laugh people do when they don't know how to respond. Cameras? Honey, those are smoke detectors. Derek would never... She stopped, shaking her head. Why would you even think that? Because things in my room keep moving. Because he insisted on installing everything himself. Because the way he looks at me sometimes... Stop. Her voice was sharp. Derek is a good man. He's been nothing but kind to us. I can't believe you'd accuse him of something so sick. Mom, please, just listen. No, you listen. Her face was red now. I've been alone for 5 years after your father died. 5 years. And I finally found someone who makes me happy, who provides for us, who accepted you as his own. And this is how you repay him? With wild accusations? I felt tears burning my eyes. I'm not making this up. Go to your room, she said coldly, and think about what you're saying. Think about what this could do to our family. I went to my room all right, but I didn't stop thinking about it. Instead, I started researching. Turns out, hidden cameras are way more common than you'd think. I learned about radio frequency detectors, about how cameras need power sources, about the tiny holes that lenses need to see through. I saved up my mall money and bought a cheap RF detector online, had it shipped to my friend Sarah's house. The day it arrived, I waited until Derek was at work and Mom was at her book club. My hands were shaking as I turned on the detector and slowly swept it around my room. The smoke detector above my bed sent the device into a frenzy. So did the motion sensor. So did the new electrical outlet he'd installed behind my dresser, the one I hadn't even noticed before. I felt sick, physically sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up, then sat on the cold tile floor trying to process what this meant. How long had he been watching me? What had he seen? What had he recorded? I needed proof, real proof that even my mom couldn't deny. I grabbed a screwdriver and a step stool. My heart was pounding as I carefully unscrewed the smoke detector. And there it was, a tiny camera lens staring back at me like an unblinking eye. Behind it, wires that definitely weren't standard smoke detector wires. I took pictures with my phone, lots of pictures. Then I carefully put everything back exactly as I'd found it. I couldn't let him know that I knew, not yet. That night at dinner, I could barely look at either of them. Derek was cutting his steak, talking about some project at work, and all I could think about was this man watching me in my most private moment. My mom was smiling, hanging on his every word. occasionally reaching over to touch his hand. "You're quiet tonight, kiddo," Derek said, and I forced myself to look up at him. "Just tired. Long shift at work. You work too hard," he said. "Maybe you should cut back your hours. Focus on school. Focus on school." While he had cameras in my bedroom. "I'm good," I managed to say. After dinner, I locked myself in the bathroom and texted Sarah everything. She freaked out, wanted to call the cops right away, but I needed more evidence. One tampered smoke detector wasn't enough, not when it was my word against his, and my own mother had already chosen whose side she was on. So I got creative. I started a new routine. Every night, I'd very obviously turn off all the lights, get into bed fully clothed, and pretend to sleep for about an hour. Then I'd wake up and go to the bathroom to change into my actual pajamas. It was exhausting, but it was the only way I could think to protect myself while I figured out what to do. During this time, I also started documenting everything. Every time something was moved in my room, every weird comment Derek made, every time I caught him looking at me a little too long. I saved it all in a password-protected folder on my phone. 2 weeks into my investigation, I made another discovery. Derek's home office was usually locked, but one day he forgot. I only had a few minutes while he was in the shower, but it was enough. His computer was password protected, but he had an external hard drive sitting right on his desk. My hands were shaking as I plugged it into my laptop. Folder after folder of normal work stuff, and then a folder labeled Home Security. Inside were dozens of video files. The thumbnails alone made me want to throw up. Me sleeping, me reading, me doing homework. All from angles that matched where he'd installed his safety devices. But that wasn't the worst part. There was another folder. Other projects. I clicked on it even though every instinct told me not to. More videos. But not of me. Other girls. Other bedrooms. Other hidden cameras. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just about me. Derek wasn't just a creep who'd developed some sick obsession with his stepdaughter. He was something much worse. I copied as much as I could onto a USB drive I had in my pocket. My heart pounding so loud I was sure he'd hear it through the bathroom door. The shower turned off just as I finished. I yanked out the drive, shut his laptop, and ran back to my room, making it just in time to hear his office door close and lock. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat on my bed, fully clothed, staring at the smoke detector above me, knowing he might be watching, knowing what I'd found. The next morning, I skipped school and went straight to the police station. The officer at the front desk looked bored when I walked in. "How can I help you?" "I need to report hidden cameras in my bedroom, and I have evidence of more. Lots more." That got his attention. What followed was a blur of questions, statements, and procedures. They took my USB drive, my phone, everything. A female detective named Rodriguez sat with me for hours as I went through every detail. She was kind but professional, occasionally exchanging looks with her partner that I couldn't read. "You did the right thing coming here," she finally said. "But I need you to understand something. Given what you've shown us, this is bigger than just local police. We're going to need to involve other agencies." "Like who?" "The FBI, for starters. If these videos cross state lines, if they're being distributed, if there are other victims, this becomes federal. Federal." The word echoed in my head as they drove me home in an unmarked car. They said they needed to move fast before Derek could destroy evidence. They told me to act normal, to not say anything to anyone. "What about my mom?" I asked. Rodriguez squeezed my shoulder. "We'll handle that. Just go inside, act like it's any other day." "Can you do that?" I nodded, even though I wasn't sure I could. Walking through my front door that afternoon was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Mom was in the kitchen, making cookies. She always baked when she was happy. "There you are. The school called and said you weren't in class. Are you feeling okay?" "Just had a headache," I lied. Went to the nurse and came home. She felt my forehead, all motherly concern. "No fever? Why don't you go lie down? I'll bring you some soup." I went to my room, that violated unsafe space, and lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, at the smoke detector, at the eye that had been watching me for who knows how long. Derek came home at 5:47. I knew because I was watching the clock, counting down the minutes until everything exploded. It happened at 6:23. The doorbell rang during dinner. Derek got up to answer it, grumbling about solicitors. I heard the door open, heard voices, lots of voices. And then Derek's sharp, "What the hell is this about?" Mom and I rushed to the foyer. The front door was wide open, and our porch was full of people in dark jackets. FBI was printed in bold yellow letters across their backs. "Derek Morrison?" A woman in front was holding up a badge. "I'm Agent Chen with the FBI. We have a warrant to search these premises." "This is insane." Derek's face was red. "You can't just..." "Sir, I need you to step outside." Her voice was calm but firm. Another agent was already moving past him into the house. Mom grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. What's happening? What's going on? Agent Chen looked at her with something like sympathy. Ma'am, are you Linda Morrison? Yes, but we'll need to speak with you and your daughter separately. This is regarding an ongoing investigation into your husband. That's when Mom turned to look at me, really look at me. And I saw the moment she knew. The moment all her denial crumbled and she realized I'd been telling the truth. No, she whispered. No, you didn't. Tell me you didn't. I couldn't speak. I just stared back at her, tears streaming down my face. You lying little bitch! Derek lunged toward me, but 2 agents grabbed him before he could reach me. You have no idea what you've done. Linda, she's lying. Whatever she told them, she's lying. They dragged him out in handcuffs while he screamed obscenities. The neighbors were all out on their lawns, watching our perfect suburban life implode. Mom sank to the floor, sobbing. I wanted to comfort her, but I didn't know how. How do you comfort someone whose world you just destroyed, even if it needed to be destroyed? Agent Chen knelt beside her. Mrs. Morrison, I know this is a shock, but your daughter is very brave. She potentially saved a lot of girls today. Mom looked up at her, mascara running down her cheeks. Girls? What do you mean, girls? That's all I can say right now. We need to process the scene. Is there somewhere you and your daughter can stay tonight? The next few hours passed in a haze. FBI agents swarmed our house, carrying out computers, hard drives, boxes of evidence. They found cameras in the bathroom too, ones I hadn't even detected. They found a hidden server in the basement with terabytes of footage. Sarah's mom picked us up and took us to their house. Mom hadn't said a word to me since her breakdown in the foyer. She sat in the guest room, staring at nothing, while I curled up on Sarah's bed and finally let myself fall apart. The truth came out over the following weeks. Derek wasn't just a voyeur. He was part of a network. They traded videos, sold them, had a whole sick community of people violating privacy and innocence. The FBI found 47 victims across 6 states. The youngest was 12. Mom filed for divorce immediately. She also started therapy, and slowly, painfully, we began to rebuild our relationship. It took her a long time to forgive herself for not believing me. It took me a long time to forgive her, too. Derek got 25 years in federal prison. It wasn't enough, but it was something. I had to testify at the trial. Sitting in that courtroom, looking at him in his orange jumpsuit, I felt a mix of emotions I still can't fully describe. Disgust, anger, relief, and strangely, pity. Not for what happened to him. He deserved every second of his sentence. But for whatever twisted him into becoming this monster. Mom was there every day, holding my hand. She'd become fiercely protective of me, almost to an annoying degree. But I understood. She was trying to make up for not protecting me when I needed it most. The prosecutor asked me why I didn't give up when my mom didn't believe me, why I kept digging, kept looking for evidence. Because I knew what I felt was real, I told the jury. That feeling in your gut when something's wrong, you have to trust it. Even when everyone tells you you're crazy, even when the people who should believe you don't, you have to trust yourself. Derek was found guilty on all counts. Update, 6 months later. Hey everyone, I wasn't planning on updating this, but I've gotten so many messages asking how we're doing that I figured I should. First, thank you to everyone who reached out with support. It means more than you know. Mom and I are doing better. We sold the house. Neither of us could stand being there anymore. We found a nice apartment closer to my college. Yes, I started college. No, it wasn't easy. I had panic attacks every time I saw a smoke detector for the first few months. But therapy helps, a lot. We found out more about Derek's network through the trial. It was worse than we thought. International, organized. Some of the victims have reached out to me and we formed a kind of support group. It's weird finding connection through something so awful, but it helps knowing I'm not alone. Mom and I are in family therapy together now. She's working through her guilt, and I'm working through my trust issues. Some days are harder than others. She still cries sometimes when she thinks I'm not looking. I still check every room for cameras, even though I know they're not there. The investigation is ongoing. They're still finding victims, still making arrests. My victim advocate says I might need to testify in more trials. I will, every time. Those girls deserve justice just like I got. I've changed my major to criminal justice with a focus on cybercrime. My advisor thinks I'm crazy, given everything I've been through, but I see it differently. I know what it's like to have your privacy violated in the worst way. I know what it's like to not be believed. Maybe I can help other girls who are going through the same thing. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone gaslight you into doubting yourself. And document everything. Evidence is what saved me. And to the parents, Believe your kids, please. Even when it's hard, even when it means your world might fall apart, believe them. They need you to. Mom's calling me for dinner now. We cook together every night. It's become our thing. Small steps toward normal, whatever that means now. Take care of yourselves out there and check your smoke detectors. Seriously. Final update. 1 year later. Okay, this is really the last update, I promise. Derek died in prison last month. Another inmate, they said. Apparently, even criminals have standards when it comes to people who hurt kids. I found out from my victim advocate, who wanted to make sure I heard it from her first. I thought I'd feel something. Relief, vindication, maybe even sadness. But honestly, I felt nothing. He was already dead to me the day they led him out in handcuffs. Mom struggled with the news more than I did. Despite everything, she'd loved him once. She's dealing with complicated grief, mourning the man she thought he was, not the monster he turned out to be. The FBI operation that started with my report has led to 127 arrests across 12 countries. They're calling it one of the largest busts of this kind in history. My detective Rodriguez says I should be proud. I am, I guess. But I also wish I'd never had to be brave. I wish I could have just been a normal teenager worried about prom and calculus instead of hidden cameras and federal trials. I'm doing better. Not great every day, but better. I have a boyfriend now, a sweet guy from my criminology class who makes me feel safe. I told him everything on our third date, figuring it would scare him off. Instead, he held my hand and said, "Thank you for trusting me. We're taking things slow, but it's nice to remember that not all men are monsters." Mom's dating again, too. A nice guy from her support group who lost his wife to cancer. He has daughters of his own, and the way he talks about protecting them made Mom cry the first time they had coffee. Good tears, she said. Healing tears. I still check for cameras. I probably always will. But now I also know how to find them, how to report them, how to make sure creeps like Derek face justice. I've started a blog about digital privacy and personal safety. It's small, but it's growing. Every week I get emails from girls and some boys who found cameras, who weren't believed, who need help. I help where I can. Oh, and remember those other victims I mentioned? 3 of us are starting a nonprofit. We're calling it Trust Your Gut. We're going to schools, talking to kids about digital safety, hidden cameras, and most importantly, trusting their instincts when something feels wrong. We just got our first grant. I turn 21 next week. Mom's planning a party. Nothing big, just family and close friends. Sarah will be there, of course. She never left my side through all of this. True friendship is someone who lets you ugly cry on their bed at 3 a.m. and never complains about the snot stains. I guess what I want to say is, it gets better. Not perfect, not the same as before, but better. You find a new normal. You find purpose in your pain. You realize that surviving isn't just about getting through it, it's about what you do after. Thank you all for following this journey with me. Your support has meant everything. Stay safe out there. Trust your gut. And remember, you're not crazy, you're not overreacting, and you're definitely not alone.